Nightline begins now with me, Nadia Azmi. The top stories. Health Ministry task force to investigate death of Houseman in Pulau Pinang. And government gives assurance ECRL fares will not burden consumers. The Health Ministry will set up an independent task force to probe claims of the prevalence of a bullying culture within its departments and the death of a houseman working at Penang Hospital recently. Its Minister, Khairi Jamaluddin, in a Twitter post said he had been given an early report on the houseman's death and that the police are also completing their investigation. Meanwhile, in a statement, the Pulau Pinang Health Department also said that it was still waiting for the results of the police investigation as well as the post-mortem and chemical reports. Its Health Director, Dr. Ma'ruf Sudin, earlier verified the death of the victim who had reported to work at the Penang Hospital on April 4th. On another matter, medical practitioners in government and private health clinics are urged to refer children aged 1 month to under 18 years with symptoms of jaundice and other acute hepatitis to hospitals for further case management. Khairi said other symptoms of acute hepatitis include loss of appetite, nausea, fatigue or dark-coloured urine. In a statement, Khairi said the Health Ministry has intensified surveillance for acute hepatitis in all public health clinics and hospitals by using case definitions agreed upon by clinicians and public health experts. The Ministry is also developing case referral and management protocols for acute hepatitis of unknown etiology. Based on the Ministry's surveillance so far, Khairi said a 4-year-old boy was diagnosed with acute hepatitis and treated at hospital in Sabah in March. On April 23rd, the World Health Organization (WHO), through its event information site, reported incidences of severe acute hepatitis of unknown origin among children aged between 1 month and 16 years old. As of April 21st, the WHO has received 169 reports of severe acute hepatitis of unknown origin cases from 12 countries. The government has given its assurance that fares for the East Coast Rail Line ECRL service will not burden the people. Transport Minister Datuk Sri Wee Ka Siong said this when dismissing the claim made by Terengganu PKR Chairman Azan Ismail that ECRL fares were up to 6 times higher than airfares, which he said was purely speculative, baseless and devoid of any hard facts. In a statement on his Facebook page, Datuk Sri Wee said the estimated passenger fare structure will be based on the railway scheme as per the Land Public Transport Act. He also said discussions were still ongoing at the federal level for the fares to be equivalent with Kereta Api Tanah Melayu Berhad KTMB electric train service, ETS, on Peninsula Malaysia's west coast, which were known to be very reasonable. He added, in recovering the development costs of the ECRL, there will be other businesses that should generate revenue in tandem with the cargo component to serve a multitude of industries from manufacturing to fabrication, which should comprise more than 70% of ECRL's revenue source once it is expected to be operative in 2027. On Friday, Azan was quoted by the media as saying that ECRL fares are expected to be expensive due to its high construction costs and urged the government to look into aspects such as affordability. The project, costing over 50 billion ringgit, is expected to be completed by the end of 2026. The Road Transport Department, JPJ, has issued a total of 8,036 summonses nationwide in conjunction with Operasi Hari Raya Aidilfitri 2022 up until Thursday. All the summonses were issued after JPJ had inspected 44,737 vehicles since the operation began on April 29th. JPJ Senior Director of Enforcement, Datuk Lokman Jaman, said this showed that there were still many drivers who disobeyed the traffic rules, even though the police had previously reminded drivers to abide by the rules. Meanwhile, in JPJ's Special Technical Operation, Datuk Lokman said a total of 11 buses were inspected and all of them were found to comply with the rules. At the same time, he said a total of 77 depots and 28 bus terminals were also inspected during Operasi Hari Raya Aidilfitri. He said in the inspection, 3 bus drivers tested positive for drugs, adding that the department took immediate action by suspending their driving licenses. He added that a total of 27 heavy vehicles that violated the ban on being on the road during the festive period were also subject to action. Datuk Lokman said this to reporters after conducting a special inspection at the Genting Highlands bus terminal in Pahang on Friday. Energy and Natural Resources Minister Datuk Sri Taqiyuddin Hassan said that thus far no state reported having exceeded the annual felling ration CTT set by the government and issued new licenses for forest plantation projects. He said this was due to the government's proactive action, which always focused on protecting the country's natural resources.
Saya menegaskan bahawa setakat ini tidak adalah negeri yang melangkaui catuan yang ditetapkan. Cuma pada masa yang sama kita tidak dapat menafikan juga adanya pencerobohan haram kepada hutan ini. Ada dia panggil pembalakan haram lah.
Datuk Sri Taqiyuddin said this after visiting former Kelantan FA coach Hashim Mustafa, who was also the country's prolific striker in the 90s, at his residence near Kampung Guchil Bayam on Friday. He also said that no new forest plantations were detected recently following the implementation of a 15-year moratorium on approvals for new forest plantations in permanent forest reserves in the peninsula. He explained that the state government may issue a license to allow a company to carry out forest exploration where it can cut down an area and replant new trees. However, he confirmed that no new forest plantation licenses has been issued. In another development, Datuk Sri Taqiyuddin said a total of 27 million trees of various species were planted nationwide last year under the 100 million tree planting campaign 2021 to 2025. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has expressed discontent over the government's move to resolve out of court the suit filed by former Attorney General Tan Sri Muhammad Apandi Ali against both himself and the government. The former Prime Minister and Kerit Langkawi MP said that as a key witness in the case, he was not even informed of the terms of the settlement. In a brief statement on Facebook, the former Prime Minister said he had written to the Attorney General as he did not agree with the way the settlement was made. Tun Dr. Mahathir said he feels the government should not bow down to the fact that the termination of Tan Sri Muhammad Apandi's service is in accordance with all the affairs and powers available to the government. On April 13, it was reported that the suit filed by Tan Sri Muhammad Apandi against Tun Dr. Mahathir over the termination of the former's contract as AG was settled amicably in the Kuala Lumpur High Court. It was reported that Tan Sri Muhammad Apandi had filed the suit on October 13, 2020, naming Tun Dr. Mahathir and the government respectively as first and second defendants, seeking, among others, a declaration of termination. Bank Negara Malaysia BNM Governor Tan Sri Nur Shamsiah Muhammad Yunos on Friday said the central bank has no plans to issue any more digital bank licenses than the 5 announced recently. She revealed that the assessment and selection process of the 5 consortia for the digital bank licenses was very competitive, with all 29 applications received examined each on their individual merits by several teams from multiple angles. Tan Sri Nur Shamsiah said BNM had identified the 5 applicants which best met the objectives and requirements of the digital banking framework. She pointed out that the products and services that the 5 successful applicants will offer address specific market gaps within the underserved and unserved segments, many of which include Bumiputra communities such as small businesses and gig economy workers. This was also demonstrated through the use of innovative applications of technology and building on their existing business track record, as well as strong technology risk management capabilities that are critical for a digital bank's operations. She added the immediate focus is to ensure that the digital banks can begin operations without delay so that they can start delivering on their promised value propositions. Last week, BNM announced that digital banking licenses had been granted to 5 consortia. With 3 consortia granted general licenses, namely Boost Holdings Sindran Berhad, RHB Bank Berhad, GXS Bank Private Limited, Kwok Brothers Sindran Berhad, and C Limited YTL Digital Capital Sindran Berhad. while the remaining 2 were granted Islamic banking licenses, namely Aeon, Moneylion Incorporated, as well as a consortium led by KAF Investment Bank Berhad. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Friday expressed happiness over the strong bilateral relations enjoyed between Malaysia and Turkey in various fields, including economy and trade. According to a post on Istana Negara's official Facebook page, these sentiments were shared during a 20-minute telephone conversation at 5 p.m. on Thursday. According to the post, His Majesty had also agreed to go on a state visit to the Republic of Turkey in the third quarter of this year. Al-Sultan Abdullah and Erdogan also took the opportunity to exchange Aidilfitri greetings during the conversation. Al-Sultan Abdullah also congratulated Erdogan after the iconic Hagia Sophia in Istanbul held its first Tarawih prayers in 88 years, beginning April 1st, describing it as a historic moment for Muslims in Turkey and around the world. Earlier, His Majesty also received a personal call from the Sultan of Brunei, Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah, during which Aidilfitri greetings were also exchanged. The Sultan of Johor, Sultan Ibrahim Almarhum Sultan Iskandar, on Friday bestowed the state's highest order of chivalry on Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong in a special investiture ceremony held at Istana Besar in Johor Bahru. 70-year-old Lee received the most honourable order of the Crown of Johor, First Class, Datuk Sri Paduka Mahkota Johor SPMJ, which carries the title Datuk. His wife, Ho Ching, who recently retired as Temasek Holdings' Chief Executive Officer, was also honoured with the most exalted order of Sultan Ibrahim Johor, First Class, Datuk Sri Mulia Sultan Ibrahim Johor, SMIJ, which carries the title Datin Paduka. The investiture, which was steeped in tradition and ceremony, was also graced by Permaisuri of Johor, Raja Zarid Sofia Almarhum Sultan Idris Shah, Crown Prince of Johor Tunku Ismail Sultan Ibrahim, as well as other members of the Johor royal family. The Johor ruler said the presentation of the state's highest award was testimony to the neighbours' long-standing close relationship and deepening ties. Johor had previously also bestowed orders of chivalry on Singapore leaders as a testimony of the warm and close friendship it enjoys with its immediate neighbour. More local updates later in the Buletin. But first, after this short break, dirty tricks allegations mar last days of Philippine election campaign. Don't go away.
Hello.
Welcome back. Philippine election rivals traded allegations of dirty tricks and vote rigging on Friday in the final stretch of an acerbic campaign that is tipped to bring the son of former dictator Ferdinand Marcos to power. After months of fierce campaigning marked by relentless misinformation and an online whitewashing of the country's violent history, rivals Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Leni Robredo implicated each other in underhand tactics. The Marcos campaign on Friday accused Robredo of being toxic, divisive and acrimonious and having associated themselves with shadowy political groups and urged supporters to protect their votes against unspecified attempts at vote rigging. Robredo meanwhile hit back, accusing Marcos Jr. of being a liar. With all still to play for, the 57-year-old took legal action on Friday to bat back potentially damaging rumours that she is in league with the Communist Party. In a complaint affidavit filed with the prosecutor's office, Robredo's spokesman called the allegations fabricated and fictitious. Marcos Jr., the son of the late dictator and notoriously kleptocratic First Lady Imelda Marcos, is predicted to win Monday's poll by a landslide. NASA's Crew 3 mission returned home to Earth after 6 months aboard the International Space Station. The SpaceX Dragon Endurance spacecraft with NASA astronauts Kayla Barron, Rajashari and Tom Marshburn, as well as European Space Agency astronaut Matthias Maurer, splashed down off the coast of Florida at 12:43 a.m. on Friday. The 4 astronauts undocked from the ISS a day earlier as the station was flying over Australia. They left behind 1 Italian and 3 American astronauts of Crew 4 and 3 Russian cosmonauts. Ahead of departure, Marshburn handed command of the station over to Russian Oleg Artemyev. During their nearly 6-month science mission, they performed hundreds of experiments and technology demonstrations.
They are making their way out.
The search for survivors of a building collapse in Changsha, central China, has ended, with state media reporting that 53 people had been killed. Authorities said that as of 8:03 a.m. Friday, all the missing had been accounted for, according to an online post by state broadcaster CCTV. In the week since the disaster, rescuers found 10 survivors, including a woman who was trapped for more than 5 days. She was pulled from the wreckage soon after midnight on Thursday. At least 9 people have been arrested on suspicion of ignoring building codes or committing other violations. They include the building owner, 3 people in charge of design and construction, and 5 others who allegedly gave a false safety assessment for a guest house on the building's 4th to 6th floors. Sports. The Philippines men's football under-23 team beat Timor-Leste 4-0 to kick off its 31st SEA Games campaign on a high note on Friday. 4 different scorers rose to the occasion for the Ascals U23 with veteran Stefan Schrock assisting the first 2 goals. Christian Rontini opened the scoring with a header of Schrock's free kick for a 1-0 lead in the 10th minute and maintained the advantage at half-time. Dennis Chung doubled the lead in the 56th minute also from Schrock's assist. Jovin Bedic also joined the scoring party, beating Timor-Leste's backline for Ascal's U23 third goal in the 78th minute. Oskari Kekkonen capped the win with the 4th goal 2 minutes after Bedic's goal. The Philippines will next meet the SEA Games host Vietnam on Sunday. The Asian Games, due to take place in the Chinese city of Hangzhou in September, have been postponed indefinitely. According to a press release on Friday by the Executive Board of Olympic Council of Asia, the Games, scheduled to be held from September 10th to 25th, have now been delayed as China tries to stamp out a large resurgence in infections in several parts of the country. The Olympic Council of Asia, OCA, said in a statement that the decision to postpone was taken by all the stakeholders after carefully considering the pandemic situation and the size of the Games. The statement said new dates for the Games, which typically attract more than 10,000 athletes from across the region, will be announced in the near future. Hangzhou lies less than 200 kilometers from the country's biggest city, Shanghai, which has endured a weeks-long lockdown as part of the ruling Communist Party's zero-tolerance approach to the virus. The OCA also said that the Asian Youth Games, scheduled to be held in December in the Chinese city of Shantou, would be cancelled, having already been postponed once. Police on the hunt for 3 men who robbed pawn shop. More from the local front when we return. Welcome back. The public should be wary of human trafficking syndicates luring them with lucrative job offers. MCA Public Services and Complaints Department Head Datuk Sri Michael Chong said this on Friday as he warned Malaysians not to fall prey to such culprits. According to Datuk Sri Chong, he was puzzled that despite wide publicity and regular advice, many youths were still gullible to such scams. He also said his department was informed that over 40 Malaysians have fallen victim to human trafficking syndicates abroad. Datuk Sri Chong added currently 8 Malaysians were being detained by authorities in Cambodia, while 2 others were expected to be released soon. He also revealed that he had contacted Malaysian ambassador to Cambodia, Aldin Hussaini Muhammad Hashim, to appeal to the Cambodian Deputy Prime Minister to intervene and release the affected Malaysians. He said many parents also have expressed their anxiety and sought his assistance to advise their children against accepting dubious high-paying job offers abroad. Police are on the hunt for 3 men who robbed a pawn shop in Pasir Mas, Kelantan on Thursday and escaped with 1 million ringgit cash and jewellery. Acting State Police Chief Datuk Muhammad Zaki Harun in a statement on Friday said the robbery occurred at 4:30 p.m. when the pawn shop owner and his 5 workers were still at the premises. Datuk Muhammad Zaki said 2 of the masked robbers were armed with pistols, while the other was wielding a knife during the incident. They stormed the pawn shop and tied up the owner and his workers before forcing them to open the safe at the premises and place the cash and valuables into a bag. The suspects then escaped using the victim's white Perodua Alza. He added following a report lodged by the victim, police have launched Op Tutup and set up roadblocks to track down the suspects and their getaway vehicle. Authorities also deployed teams from the Criminal Investigation Department and General Operations Force to monitor the border checkpoints and illegal jetties along the Kelantan-Thailand border. The vehicle was later found abandoned by a roadside in Kuala Jambu Tumpat around midnight. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for armed robbery. In Melaka, 6 diners, including a 1-year-old toddler, were left injured after a car crashed into a Tom Yum restaurant they were dining in at Jalan Hang Lipo, Bukit Baru on Thursday. In the 7:15 p.m. incident, a Perodua Kancil car driven by a 66-year-old senior crashed into the restaurant after he accidentally stepped on the gas pedal while starting the car, causing the vehicle to lurch forward into the restaurant. Melaka Tengah OCPD Assistant Commissioner Christopher Patit said investigations found that the driver had just finished eating at the restaurant and wanted to start the vehicle parked in the parking lot in front of the restaurant. However, the driver accidentally stepped on the accelerator and the vehicle only came to a stop when it hit the wall of the premise. The incident caused 6 diners aged 1 to 56 from Melaka, Johor and Pulau Pinang to suffer minor injuries and were treated at the Melaka Hospital Green Zone while the driver escaped uninjured. Police have opened an investigation paper over a fighting incident in which a woman voiced her dissatisfaction over the price of food at a Nasi Kandar restaurant in Bahau Negeri Sembilan recently. Jempol OCPD Superintendent Hu Chang Hock said the incident occurred at about 1 a.m. on Thursday after the woman had disputed the price of a plate of nasi goreng kosong for which she was charged 6 ringgit. Upon confrontation, the restaurant cashier had allegedly raised his voice to the woman, and this angered her son, who then threw a tissue box at the cashier. A restaurant employee who witnessed the incident started to throw punches at the son before the fight was dispersed by other workers and patrons. Superintendent Hu said, following the incident, police have opened an investigation paper under Section 323 of the Penal Code, and the case will be referred to the Deputy Public Prosecutor's Office immediately. Superintendent Hu also denied allegations that there was police intervention in resolving the case, as police took action in accordance with the set procedures without taking sides. He urged any patrons and members of the public to come forward to assist in the investigation and advised the public not to make any speculations on social media which could disrupt the investigation and public order. That's it for Nightline this time around. Ahead of this weekend's inaugural Miami Grand Prix Formula One, world champion Max Verstappen of Red Bull Racing and Scuderia AlphaTauri Yuki Tsunoda left the cosmopolitan glamour of Miami behind to experience a different side of Florida, swamp buggy racing. The drivers headed 2 hours west of Miami to the city of Naples, surrounded by the Florida Everglades, and since 1949, home to the tradition of swamp buggy racing. These 900 horsepower V8 buggies with 68-inch wheels draw large crowds to witness head-to-head racing around a track submerged in standing water. Let's take a look. I'm Nadia Azmi. Thank you for tuning in and stay safe.